Today's topic is all about tone. What exactly is tone? Well, when an author writes about a subject, he or she brings a particular attitude, mood, or tone to the material. How is tone revealed? Author's tone is revealed through every word on the page. And while it is easier to understand the tone of the spoken word, with practice, you will be able to hear the voice of the author through the written word. What is the best strategy to identify tone? Well, the best strategy involves finding the main idea and determining the author's purpose first. Then the reader can focus on specific words and sentence structure to determine the tone of the material. Let us look at an example. There are many ways to improve your reading. First, you must understand unfamiliar words, so writing them in a journal, looking up their meanings, and using them in a paragraph will help you learn those new words. Next, you must practice reading every day to keep up your skill. Furthermore, you should underline important points as you uncover them to check your understanding of the reading material. Finally, you should use the highlighted material to make a summary of what you have read so you can analyze the contents and understand the concepts. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to look for in here, as I mentioned before, we need to look for, well, our topic is reading, of course, and our main idea. Once you understand that, it will help you understand the tone that you're looking at. Now, basically, the tone in here is very objective. There's nothing emotional. The author is merely telling you how to improve your reading by understanding unfamiliar words, practicing reading, and underlining and highlighting and making an outline for study purposes. So obviously the tone here, since the author is just imparting facts to the reader, is objective. Let's take a look at another example. Everyone must perform his or her basic duty and vote in the upcoming election. This bozo has been in office far too long, and he's had a terrible influence on our state. He's done nothing but make wrong moves and deliver empty promises to all of us. It's time to make a change for the better. No one could be worse than this poor excuse for a governor. Well, very first thing we do, can you remember what it is? We need to look for our main idea. And of course, here we are doing our basic duty and voting in the upcoming election. Let us look at the kinds of words, the language that the author is using. And we see that there's a lot of very emotional or subjective words here that would indicate an emotional or subjective tone. Bozo, first of all. Terrible, a superlative word. He's done nothing. Wrong moves, empty promises. Superlative again, better. No one could be worse. Poor excuse for a governor. Obviously, the writer is trying to persuade the reader to vote for a new governor because the writer doesn't think this governor is doing a good job. And the tone that's being used is a very emotional or subjective tone. Let's move on to another strategy. Another strategy to identify tone. When the reader focuses on specific words and sentence structure, it's wise to pay attention to the denotation and connotation of words to find the author's tone. What's a denotation? That's the dictionary definition of a word. Connotation is the subtle figurative meanings of and associations with a word. Let us look at an example. Here's the first one. A desk is a flat piece of furniture used for writing. There's obviously no hidden meaning in the word desk. We're strictly getting the dictionary definition of desk. However, take a look at the next sentence. Jeffrey's brother, one of the Navy SEALs who killed Osama bin Laden, was wounded on a recent tour of duty in the war in Afghanistan. Obviously, the words killed and war, even wounded, they actually convey a very emotional overtone in addition to their dictionary definitions. So in order to understand the differences of these types of words that are used here, once you get that, it will help you to understand the differences in particular words that the author may have chosen for tone. Let's look at another key point. A discerning reader, that's a very good reader, must be sensitive to the nuances, and that means the slight differences found in different word choices to identify the author's tone correctly. Let's take a look at our next example. Flyer the cat loved to play with the stuffed animal Mickey while putting on a show for his human audience. The feline would dart after the toy, grab it, and try to pull its tail off. Then the cat would bat the toy up in the air, smack the little fake mouse with his paw, and viciously jump on his prey. As soon as Mickey squeaked, Flyer would jump 3 feet in the air and run away, leaving his human fan club laughing. It was all part of his daily fun because after dashing away, Flyer would charge right back on the scene, ready for more action. Okay, so let's pick out the tone on this one. Do we think the author is fearful of the cat? She doesn't seem to say anything about he grabbed me and threw me up in the air. Doesn't seem to be fearful. Objective. Well, we wouldn't be using words like vicious and laughing if it were objective. Tragic. Is there something tragic going on in here? No. Mickey is just a stuffed animal. Mickey is not real, so we're not looking at this cat playing with a live animal and hurting anything real. The author is obviously amused. She's talking about Mickey and the cat, Flyer, putting on a show for the human audience, and that his human fan club laugh when this happens, and that he comes back on the scene, coming back to put on a show later on. So obviously the author is amused in this case. Let's take a look at another example. It's difficult for my small family to keep our house tidy. First of all, my husband loves to leave things lying around. For instance, he will drop his huge shoes, size 13s, in the front hallway and leave his shirt on the dining room chair. Also, he will leave old newspapers on the dining room table and dirty plates in the family room. Unfortunately, I'm to blame as well. My favorite trick is to leave my computer bag in the middle of the hall so everyone can trip over it. Furthermore, I can be pretty messy. For example, I leave dirty dishes in the kitchen sink, and I'm constantly throwing old books I have read on the end tables in the family room, so I can never find anything I want when I need it. But even our cats get in on the action by throwing their toys around, including their fake mice, balls, and stuffed animals. I guess we all deserve one another in our untidy household, but we'll have to keep on trying to stay ahead of the mess. Okay, now what do you think the author's tone is in here? Cynical? Well, is the author distrusting of anyone? Does he or she mention that? No. Is the author impassioned, filled with passion about keeping the house tidy or finding a way to cure cancer or something like that? No, the author just says, I guess we'll just have to keep on trying to stay ahead of the mess. She doesn't seem to be too impassioned about anything. Self-deprecating. That is the absolute correct answer. The author is belittling. herself or kind of making fun of herself. And the author is definitely not pessimistic because we're not led to believe that the housekeeping situation is hopeless, because she says in the very last sentence, I guess we deserve one another in our untidy household, but we'll have to keep on trying to stay ahead of the mess. It sounds like she's optimistic that they'll just keep on keeping on and trying. Okay, let's just take a look at one more idea here. What is extreme tone? Extreme tone is known as bias, and it can represent both positive and negative emotions. When bias is used in writing, the content of the writing must be scrutinized very carefully to ensure that the author's argument is sound. We will discuss bias more completely in the next lesson.